There comes a moment in every quiet life when we encounter a reflection we can no longer walk past. It may appear in a mirror, in a conversation that lingers, in a silence we cannot explain. And even though nothing dramatic happens on the outside, something inside us pauses, as if a small truth is standing there, waiting to be acknowledged. We sense that this truth has been with us for years, perhaps hidden behind our routines, our excuses, or the stories we tell to soften reality. And yet, the moment we try to look directly at it, we hesitate. Not because we are fragile, but because seeing ourselves clearly has always required courage. A mirror is simple, but honesty, real honesty, the kind that sits quietly in the heart, is not. This is a story about that honesty, about the mirror that never lies, and about the quiet transformation that begins the moment we finally face it. Most people spend their lives circling around the edges of self-awareness without ever stepping fully into it. We notice patterns in our reactions, our relationships, our fears, but we rarely follow them all the way to their origin. It is easier to say, "This is just who I am," than to ask where our habits were born. It is easier to say, "Life keeps hurting me," than to examine how we sometimes walk back into the same doors that have closed on us before. We cover our reflections with explanations that feel comforting, even when they hold us in place. A person may avoid confrontation, believing they are simply peaceful, when deep down they fear disappointing others. Another may chase achievement endlessly, assuming they are ambitious, when what they truly fear is the quiet moment where they feel unworthy without accomplishment. Someone else may distance themselves emotionally, calling it independence, when it is really a fear of being seen too deeply. These struggles are not faults, they are human stories playing out beneath the surface. But the difficulty lies in how rarely we allow ourselves to truly see them. We often look for external reasons to explain our internal pain. A difficult past, a harsh moment, a person who hurt us. And while those experiences shape us, they do not imprison us. What imprisons us are the stories we build around them, the stories we repeat until they become the only version of ourselves we recognize. Self-awareness is frightening because it comes with questions we cannot avoid. Why do I react this way? Why do I keep returning to what hurts? What am I trying to protect? What am I afraid to admit? These questions feel heavy not because the answers are dangerous, but because they are true. And truth, even when gentle, can feel like a weight when we've spent years avoiding it. If the mirror never lies, then why do we struggle to look into it? The answer is simple. Clarity removes the illusions that once kept us safe. As children, we understood the world through emotion long before logic. We learned what love felt like, what silence meant, what conflict sounded like, and our minds began shaping beliefs to help us survive. Those early beliefs become the mirrors through which we interpret our adult lives. If love felt conditional, we may grow into people who perform for approval. If anger filled the room, we may grow into people who tiptoe around discomfort. If our feelings were dismissed, we may learn to dismiss our own. These patterns are not chosen. They are inherited from the emotional climate we grew up in. So the struggle of facing our reflection is not about blame. It is about recognition. Once we understand where our patterns came from, their weight shifts. The fear softens. The defense loosens. We begin to see that our reactions were not signs of weakness, but strategies built long ago by a younger self trying to feel safe. Self-awareness is not a harsh spotlight. It is a soft lantern held over the places that need warmth. It asks us not to judge ourselves, but to understand ourselves. Because understanding is the first moment where change becomes possible. When we stop saying, "This is just who I am," and start saying, "This is who I learned to be," something begins to open inside us. And that opening is the quiet doorway to transformation. The shift happens slowly, almost imperceptibly at first. It is the moment we realize that the mirror is not our enemy, it is our guide. It shows us not our flaws, but our starting point. It reflects not just who we are, but who we are capable of becoming. The shift begins when we stop resisting the truth and begin listening to it. We notice that the things we call personality are sometimes leftover defenses. We notice that our habits, even the destructive ones, are attempts to meet an unmet need. We notice that beneath every fear is something gentle asking for attention. Once this awareness appears, we cannot unsee it. And that is the quiet blessing of self-awareness. It moves us from repetition to choice. A person who always kept their emotions hidden may suddenly feel safe enough to speak. The one who chased achievement may pause long enough to rest. The one who avoided conflict may begin to express their truth without fear. The one who feared closeness may soften and let another human being truly see them. Nothing dramatic happens from the outside. Yet everything changes from within. Because for the first time, our choices come from clarity instead of avoidance. Self-awareness does not instantly remove our patterns, but it removes their invisibility. And once something is seen clearly, it no longer controls us in the same way. The mirror becomes a partner, not a threat. In daily life, the lesson of the mirror reveals itself in small, quiet moments. So subtle we might miss them if we are not paying attention. It shows up when we feel irritation rising and pause long enough to ask, "What am I protecting right now?" It shows up when we notice our impulse to withdraw and gently wonder, "What fear is speaking beneath this?" It shows up when we feel the urge to prove ourselves and choose, instead, to breathe and let the moment be enough. It shows up when we catch ourselves repeating an old pattern and choose a slower, kinder response. Self-awareness is not a sudden transformation. It is a slow, steady path of meeting ourselves with honesty. It is a conversation we learn to have respectfully, without punishment, without shame. A person who practices this begins to walk differently, not arrogantly, but consciously. They move with a sense of inner spaciousness, as if they've finally made room for the truth they once avoided. Every reflection becomes an invitation instead of a confrontation. The mirror becomes a friend that whispers, "Look again. There is more to you than your defenses." And in time, people notice. Not because your life becomes perfect, but because you begin to show up more whole. You apologize more sincerely. You listen more openly. You choose with intention rather than reaction. You stop running from your reflection and start learning from it. In this way, the mirror becomes a place of return, a reminder that clarity is not an achievement, but a practice. When we finally learn to face the mirror that never lies, we discover that its truth is far gentler than our fears ever were. And in that quiet honesty, something in us settles, not into perfection, but into clarity, where change can finally take root.